Cool. So we are recording. 1, 2. Yep. So welcome everyone to our Future Leaders Call, discussing today the global happenings in the world and Covidnessness. Has someone just joined us as well? Christina's here for our call. We're very privileged to have our very own Christina Vatti on the call. We are amidst cooking, so every now and again you may hear noises. I may leave. Christina may leave.
That when one of you is making the sounds of making food.
We just like banging pans.
Yeah, and then right at the end, the doorbell goes and the takeaway gets delivered. I know your game. I've been to your house.
This is when you open our fridge and there's leaves in it, but it's only upon close inspection you realize it's just like bits of grass and dandelions, but people think it's like fresh vegetables.
Garden.
Yeah, that is exactly what does happen sometimes, but not today. Not today. So everyone, possibly like one of our bigger calls, which is really, really nice to see. So everyone's joined today for a particular reason. We're discussing everything that's going on. Everyone is on the call has been on at least one call before. A couple of you, this is your second or third calls. And so just to reiterate for yourselves, and if anyone ever does watch this recording, there's no agendas with these calls. There's very few rules other than just really respecting where we're all coming from. But I know all of you enough that I'm pretty certain that's a given. And the aim is to hold a safe space where we can discuss whatever needs to be discussed, to ask any questions, raise any points. And the end product is that everybody leaves the call a little bit better. That means whatever it means to you, but it generally means if the opposite means I feel worse than I did, it was not the intention. However, that could also be part of your journey in the process as well. Who knows? But my intention is that fundamentally these help and these shift. So everyone's UK based. We have one lady who is in these states, which is Marie. So I'm really interested as we go through this to get your takes on things as well. To give Marie a bit of an insight of where we're at currently. And I'm only up to date of a few days ago, but at the minute going on right now in the UK is peaks in things and questions about bigger lockdowns and stuff. We don't have, as far as I'm aware, riots and shootings, as far as I'm aware. So what I would love to do is, if anyone can just put their hand up to just share for a minute, if you wish, where your mind is at and how things are impacting you, and what you'd love to kind of just throw into the mix, and it might help Marie understand as well where she's at. And I'm going to come to Marie at the end also. Some of you may just be observing and bystanders and just receiving, and that's totally fine. And if no one has anything that they wish to begin with or ask questions on, then we can just dive straight in. But I don't want to do a full round robin. I'd rather just ask if anyone's got anything in particular that means something to them at the moment that they would love to bring up from a confusion perspective or anything like that. So Angelita?
Not particularly from a confusion point of view, which is a bit different for me, but with the, I don't even know what to call it, to be honest, the restrictions, so the restrictions that begin certainly where I live and probably everywhere else north from tomorrow, which means that things are going to close and people can't do things. I'm finding that I'm better able to take a different view, which thanks to these calls, I wasn't able to do that originally. I was really in the soup and just struggling quite a lot. So that has been a really big development for me, but also just being able to be aware of and to observe what I see around me where I'm, going out and working things, confusion, fear, anger, and it's just a disturbing mix is what I what I'm seeing. That's how it feels to me. You know, I'm not out and about an awful lot, apart from with a specific group of people, but you know, if I've been into shops and things, it's just a really weird vibe going on. Yeah, so it's just, and I think a lot of those people are coming from a place of confusion and fear. Just, yeah, and just a lot of just having no idea what's going on. And for me, the thing that I'm sort of feeling and seeing is just what is going to happen. You know, what is going to happen next, in the next 2 months, in the next 3 months. I spent some of today with my daughter, who's just moved out, hence my house is nice and quiet. But she was saying, you know, this could be it for the next 6 months, and I was like, really? So yeah, no idea. But doing my best to every now and then just stop, switch off the phone, and just not read anything, not look at anything, because it's far too overwhelming. And that is from a place of some awareness and some knowledge and some understanding of what's going on. So I really, really feel for people who have no awareness and no understanding. They must be in such a difficult place and such a scary place. And I feel that, you know, that's what I'm picking up on when I'm going out. So that's my 2 pennyworth.
Ian, thank you very much for sharing that, Angelita. Just really quickly, does anyone else resonate with that as well, that what she just said there?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. It's because I see the same, and I witnessed it a little bit today as well with a particular person out in town. And I feel for that, and I feel for the people that are wherever you are on the spectrum of understanding, if you can even call it that. Does anybody have a completely opposite view or a completely opposite? Marie, thank you very much. Or experience, you and experience, obviously, like we're trying to be careful of my words.
You know what I so appreciate this forum is that all voices are welcome. And I so appreciate, Angelita, your and everyone expressing the fear part of this. And here I am in Portland, Oregon. And if you heard anything about the United States, Portland, Oregon is supposed to be a war zone. And it is probably a, you know, maybe a 2-block radius where people come and do the things that they do. And it's downtown Portland. And here I am in Portland, and here is my view. You know, I've created this beautiful world, and yeah, it's very magical here. And because only because I choose. Now, I don't know how many people on the call are introverted tendencies, but if you have the introverted tendencies, this is truly, I feel, the rise of the introvert. Because we're the ones who want to have these deep conversations. We're unafraid of the fear. And to me, I feel like a warrioress of light. And if anybody knows astrology, in my 3rd house, in Sagittarius, my Jupiter is in 29 degrees. And everybody knows, if you know astrology, the 29 is the magical 29 degrees. And I've just figured that out for myself. So Jupiter is all about joy and protection. And I feel like this has been my time to walk into that world of, like, how can we see this in a joyful way? And we only know by what feels heavy and what feels light. It's how simple it is. If it feels heavy, you want to go down that road, please, it's there. 99% of the people are there. But if you feel light and you want to go down that direction, this wasn't called the coronavirus for no reason. Corona means crown. It means sovereign. It means, you know, we have the possibility of finding our own sovereignty in this. And those of us who want to have this kind of conversation, the fact that 10 of us are here to explain all of the sides of this beautiful facet of this diamond, then this feels more powerful than ever. The fact that you've so all welcomed me in this space to have another conversation, to have a different conversation, because the fear, we can just leave and look everywhere else. And if you turn on the television and social media, that's usually what it shows. And I've curated my Facebook page so it only shows awesome because I choose it. And I know that my spells, the words that I say are spells that go out into the world. I'm doing a presentation, a big presentation this Friday for a group of silvers, as they call them. People are in their later part of their life. I'm going to be turning fucking 60 in 2 weeks. And I'm so flippin' passionate about the fact that we've lost that whole voice of what it is to be wise. To know I've been fucking 6 decades on this planet. And I have wisdom to share, and I've been putting the basket on my wonderful light for way too long. And the fact that I've even, Daniel, you've given me this platform to even say it for 2 minutes. I welcome that you have welcomed another voice in this sphere, because there is another voice. There is a passionate way of looking at this. And why I'm so fired up is the flippin' YouTube video you just posted, somebody posted about, called The Transition.
The one, hang on, I have not seen that.
Dan did it. Dan posted it. Not you, Dan,
Sweet.
but the other Dan.
Sweet goodness, that is a wonderful video. It is an hour and a half of, I'm only halfway through it, but it was done 3 years ago. So to thank something, like they start out with thanking Donald Trump, and you go, oh yeah, here you go. Because Donald Trump is the person that force that showed that dark side. He said, we haven't moved forward anywhere near as that moment. How the March on Washington, the Women's March, the Me Too movement, all these things happened because of this dude who, whatever you think about him. And
so I'm going to ask a question on that, Marie, because obviously I resonate with what you're saying there, but what I would love to do is to just relate this back into worlds, because what Angelita shared there is what lots of other people experience. And I know Angelita enough that she's a massive light worker and holds so much love about this world, and I do as well. But I feel and hear what Angelita's saying, and I fully hear and feel what you're saying. And I'm sat here listening to that thinking, if I have someone in front of me who is not aware of that different perspective, or even if you are aware of it, like I'm aware of it, but yet we could easily go, well, especially in the UK, we just had a message on the FLT group. I just want to read it. Okay, so the government will hold a gold commandment where the Greater Manchester will go to tier 3. All right, so it's just more lockdown. So the question is, like, how does one then help support in some way a community in a world where the real-time implications that are being happening right now, whether you think they should or they shouldn't, whether you think that, just regardless of what we think, they're happening, how do you bridge that gap between being okay with that if it means the loss of your business, if it means the loss of a job, if it means massive upheaval to you and your family with huge pain? And that's a question to yourself, and it's a question to anyone else who might hold that same view, because fundamentally people seem to be on two schools of thinking, but both receiving the impact of the world. And I think it's easier for some than others. And I definitely speak from a privileged perspective there, going through this whole pandemic. So that's the question that I would love to ask, and I like your view and anyone else's view that wishes to comment on that.
First of all, to have this kind of a forum is like an answer to your question. And the fact that most people, when they talk about what they want, they're usually saying what they don't want. I don't want drama. I don't want sadness. But they talk about what they don't want, and the universe doesn't hear don't. So you're only recycling. And the fact that only when you say the loss of a job, the loss of your business, the loss of this, what about just saying this is an up leveling? Just change. It's literally just going from north to true north. It's just a 2 degrees of magic That's where the magic's found. There's no loss. No, I have a very different view of death. Those people who have decided to make their transition out of this world are the ones who are ready to fight on the other side. This is a war of consciousness. This is a war of creation. And the fact that you have this forum, Daniel, is magic. And the fact that you've got 10 people, can you imagine 10 people talking to 10 people, talking to 10 people? We've already got an army here. You have created that.
Surely then, if we're looking at language, surely we shouldn't be having the words war and army in there, though.
But again, now you're saying war is bad. Now you're saying what?
Bad. Oh, I insinuated it. I'll take that. I did insinuate it.
Yeah. What if this is truly, we have to me, here's my thought, is that the awesomeness of the goddess had to leave us thousands of years in the patriarchy, because there's no way we would think, wow, we got to change this unless we had thousands of years of oppression. It's time to bring back the feminine. It's the 13th of October. People are so afraid of 13. 13 is the power of the feminine. They don't even have floors that are 13. They don't have, 13 is such a scary number. What if we take the fact that this is the power of the feminine and take it to a whole nother level? And we are way more powerful than we think. And it's just, if we are in a war, then we're in a crisis of courage. And everybody knows, and if you speak another language, what does core mean? Heart. We're in a crisis of the heart. Looking back on yourself. This Mercury retrograde that's happening right now, and people say, well, gosh, my technology didn't work. Must be Mercury retrograde, that stupid thing. Instead, Mercury is a planet of communication, and retrograde is to look within. This is the time to look within. And what do you want to say into the world? That's.
So I massively appreciate the insights and the energy, and I can feel your passion throughout all that. I want to kind of come around to some other people here, but I would first want to just go back to Angelita. If you wish to just provide your perspective on things, having had that, I don't want to have a round off between two people each time, but I do still want to just kind of come back to see receiving that and how that, whether that changes anything because of your experience thus far.
I get what Marie said. On some level, I can receive that. I can get that. I'm there, but I also work and live in an area of quite a lot of deprivation and poverty. I do some community work, so I'm surrounded, or I'm out in work or talking to people who are just not there. So what I would be looking for is a middle, if you like, somewhere that to bring people up to that they can receive, because a lot of the people that I know and work with and I'm in contact with couldn't even hear what you've just said. They would just think you were just completely la-la, just what the hell, the return of the feminine, are you joking? I can't even go shopping. So there is a complete difference there. And for me, and I'm realizing this certainly this year, is my spirituality, my beliefs, the work that I do, there has to be a practical element to it. Otherwise, for me, there's no point. I can sit upon a cloud and, meditate for days. That's fine, but it isn't it isn't really serving me. It isn't really feeding my soul, and it isn't helping the people who I am surrounded by and have obviously chosen to live with and work with. So for me, it has to have a practical element. It has to have something that I can say, try this, do this, read this, or just be able to listen to people and speak to them in a way that they can understand, that does bring them up, even if it, from wherever we are, any of us, if we think, well, why do people not know this? People don't know certain things. And I'm constantly surprised that, I'll talk about, I don't know, something, anything, and nobody's heard of it. And you think, really? Everybody's heard of that. Everybody knows that, don't they? Well, no, they don't. So for me, it has to be practical as well. So I feel that we're sort of bridging, for me anyway, what I'm doing, or the work I'm doing at the moment, is bridging this gap between where a lot of people are sitting very uncomfortably, but a lot of people are sitting, and where we could sit and where we could be. So yeah.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that, and it reminds me, I think I've shared this on a call before, but when I went to Argentina for the G20 thing, there was a girl within the group, a lady within the group who was LGBTQ and was very much about diversification and everything that's within that in the business world. And we were at a diversification talk with 5 white 50-year-old men on stage to talk about diversification in business. Very paradoxical, of course. Anyway, she stood up very vocally, made herself clear, and she left and a couple of other people left, and it was one of those really tense moments. And I remember thinking, you shouldn't do that. But then afterwards, I reflected and realized that there is a space in this world for people like her with her energy and her space and her perspective. And sometimes they need to, in that instance, go first, because no one's going to listen to my tactic, because my tactic is much more about conversation. But there is no conversation until you've done something to have it. And I think that there is there's a Laurie Ladd video that Christina put me onto, and she talks about how, you know, if you are at the front and you're speaking to people and you can have the megaphone and you can talk to people and you can share that perspective and fight for something, let's say, then that's brilliant. She said, but at the same time, if all you can do is one tiny little thing to move yourself forward, or you can only help your auntie, or you can't even help anyone, you're just in that soup, and then that's okay as well. And I think it really comes back to this central view that we're moving through something, and everyone's in the right space where they need to be, and that allows Marie to hold that energy that she's got. It allows Kirsty to go out there and deal with what she's dealing with, if you don't mind me saying, Kirsty, with your child and where coronavirus is having that impact within schools and everything. That's a real thing in your real life world that's probably bigger than what someone over there is doing, that might be global or might even be local. So I think that there's a time and a space for all of these different energies. And so what I would love now, if anyone else wishes to kind of share, is to pick up where Angelita finished off there, which is around how does one then, I don't want to use the putting a frog in boiling water analogy. Can someone give me a better analogy than that? Pardon?
I've got that book. No.
You've got that book. Do you know it's actually a false myth that if you put a frog in cold water and turn it up, it gets to a certain temperature and it jumps out? It's not true at all. Yeah. Which made me feel quite good, but someone.
Don't believe that. I think you should try it.
I'm not trying. There's a few things that I would like to try that are sayings, but the point is that we all know that when you're selling something, and all ideas are sales, really, we take people on journeys, and you have to pick someone up where they're at and take them on a journey. And it's a journey through the mind, and it's a journey through the emotions, and it's a journey through the soul. So where some people can journey fast, some people can probably teleport, and some people are on crutches and refuse to accept transportation, and some people are just sat like that. So how do we, you, us, support people in different stages? Because I can hear Marie's story and I can go straight in with that. It's got the sort of energy that I'm with, and it's not impacting my work like it is with Angelita's. We're all in different environments. So I would just love people's just insights on that, because it's through all of us sharing that we get somewhere. I'm going to come to my bottom left corner to Kirsty. Thank you for joining us, Kirsty.
Hi.
What's your insight?
Your top right corner. I'm confused.
Well, this is a quantum call, you see. We are all squares and no squares.
All squares of a one square. Please excuse me because I'm exhausted, but I really needed this call, so I'm excited to be here. I have a question before that. So you said, like, how do we help people? My question today, which seems to be bringing up some emotions, maybe I need to go and deal with that, is why should we help people? right? And the reason I'm asking that is if we're in this situation where what we're stepping out of is victim consciousness, potentially, and I heard, you know what, everyone, I don't know Marie, but hi Marie, and thank you for your energy. And thank you, Angelita. I get the word potentially stepping out of victim consciousness, and we've been in the victim triangle for God knows how many lifetimes now, but that's what we've been in the you know, in the attacker, the what is it, attacker, rescuer, victim. And we seem, you know, and we're like one of those, even with the governments and situations that we're in where, you know, it's their fault, it's someone else's fault, and then we've got to rescue everyone. And then when we're not rescuing everyone, then we've got to attack anyone who's not going to rescue them with us. And then we just, you know, so we just keep in that triangle and we're in it all the time. And today I was at my job, my new job. And my new job is lecturing 425 students in an hour on a Monday morning. And I'm teaching music business and to 425 new music business students. As the government is shutting down music venues, music, and the entire roots music scene is like, other than online, is just depleting faster than I can teach the lectures. So as that's happening, I'm kind of going backwards, and I've set this curriculum that is all about empowerment and all about how do you meet whatever situation you have and make something out of it, and how do you become great, and how do you become an authentic leader, and how do you shape our future through creating it through the mind. And I've had to like sneak this new curriculum into an old curriculum and somehow magic my way through whilst using all the correct language and doing it in all the right ways, but potentially saying absolutely nothing that they've said before. So that's felt fine until I arrive at my job today. And my job today, so I smash it on my lecture yesterday after a really hard week of lessons. And then I turn up today and I wear my mask. And then I'm like holding the mask thinking, why am I wearing the mask? I don't even believe in the mask. Like, I genuinely, personally do not believe that this mask is doing anything. And I can't say that to anyone at the university because it's my job to adhere to all the rules and regulations, but I don't believe in it. And it's really evident that I'm not believing in it because no matter how much I want to wear the mask in love, because I decided that that would be my position, that I would wear the mask in love. And that if I had an issue with the mask, then my issue is with myself. It's not with the mask. My issue is with fear. So I'm like dealing with the mask. I wear the mask in love. And then now it's like it is ramping up. So I don't know if it's just ramping up in my situation, because maybe I have to see if I can go into even more love. I mean, so now it's like it's tightening up. So I get to the university. Now they've put, I can't even say it. Now they've put arrows, right? So first I leave my utopic landscape of where I live, which is absolutely beautiful. I live in a really beautiful place. I go on the train and I put my mask on. First, there's all sorts of nonsense that happens on the train. I get to the university and there's arrows on the floor for all these students, like there's 1,500 students, for us to follow, and we have to follow the arrows, right? Now the university is in a big square, and if you miss your room, you have to continue on the arrows. You can't go backwards. So you're just like walking around on these arrows for like, and if you're me, I miss my room every time I have to go anywhere because I'm so busy listening to my own brain. So I like go around, so I have to be really focused to get to the room. Oh shit, I missed the room, I'm back on the arrows. And you're just on this like crazy conveyor belt. And then I have to be in these rooms with these students, teaching them about something that doesn't exist, trying to do it in my best shape or form, whilst thinking, what are we doing? Like genuinely, what are we doing? And then I got to the train station on my way home. After I've had such a jolly journey on the arrows, I go, oh yeah, this is the other thing. I get to the university, you have to sign in. So you sign in and there's a box of things and squirty stuff and the stuff I don't even believe in, but I pretend to do it. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm pretending. Like, what am I doing? So it's just like this thing in my mind the whole time. Like, either do it or don't do it. Are you going to do it, and do it in love? That's what's going on. Then what happens to me is out of the university, and they're like, you need to sign in. I'm like, I already signed in this morning. No one got me to sign out. Yeah, but you need to sign in. I'm like, but you've asked me to sign in 4 times, but I haven't signed out and no one's clocked me out. So basically you've got 4 of me in the building currently. Why do you need me to sign in again? Do you need me to put the times? No, just sign in. So I'm like just getting to this place all the time. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? So there's like 2 parts of my mind. One that's going, okay, let's do this in love. Then there's another part of me that's going, are we supposed to actually do something about this? Or are we supposed to just continue to observe the rules and do this in love? Or at what point do we stand up and go, excuse me, why are we doing this? That's what I got to today. I came home just exhausted because I want to just turn around and go, well, why are we doing this? Even the helping people. Why am I currently helping? I see why I'm helping 425 students on a Monday, because it's mind powers. So I'm helping these, I'm just doing my job. I'm helping these young people to see that they can create their world. But why are we doing all the rest of it? Like, why should we help anyone right now? There's my question. Before, how do we help the world?
Okay.
Why are we bothering?
So that was brilliant, that, Kirsty. Thank you very much. I hope that
You're welcome.
added a wonderful insight. It's really nice to get people's different perspectives on like a normal day. Normal, interesting word.
Normal.
So there's two lines of thoughts we can go down now, and people are welcome to take whichever one serves them in this moment. We have a question with regards to how does somebody, if you were to help somebody, if you chose to help somebody, how do you help a person who's struggling mentally feel better about what's going on? The second question is, why the hell should you? So you can self-challenge yourself there. So Christina wants to take this one. Christina?
Hello everybody. Oh, Marie, I love you so much. It's so beautiful to see you. So beautiful to see you. I've not seen you in such a long time. Hello everybody. Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because like when Marie was speaking, I was like, yes, oh my God, yes, that's what we're doing. That's what's happening. That's what's going on. But I completely see and feel you, Angelita, that is not other people's real life experiences right now. Like, and most people would think you're absolutely crackers if you start talking about we're channeling through to the 5th dimension. They're like, what the are you talking about? I can't put food on my table. But what popped in my mind was what Joy T said, Daniel, in that talk. And I completely agree with what you were sharing around that we all have roles to play in this. And I completely agree that there is a war or a battle of consciousness that's happening right now. But I also, from the teachers, and not just the teachers that I'm tuning into, but also my own feeling that it's won, it's done. Like there's nothing that we need to be concerned about necessarily. It's just a process now that we're going through, which is uncomfortable and it doesn't feel great. And a lot of people are suffering because we need to feel the feels to allow us to be able to transmute it. But one of the things that Joy T said is that it's not for us to worry about the big picture. It's just for us to deal with our little job and our little piece of it. And the universe will bring that to us and inspire us how to respond. And all we can do is take care of ourselves into the highest level that we can, so that we can be as much in love as possible, for us to be able to meet that every single day with as much love as possible. And I think that was just the point that I just wanted to bring in, is that Angelita, your role is obviously you're on the ground and you're working with people and you're very much integrated into the community. And it's just but having that link in, you are a bridge. You know, it very much feels that way, that you've got this link into the fifth dimension, and understanding that, you know, we've got everything's energy and that we're transferring into something different, but then just holding that to give you the nourishment and the energy that you need to be able to then meet the other people where they're at in a language that they can understand. And they don't need to know the big picture, because it will be unfolded to them. Spirit will take care of that. Spirit will take care of their awakening process. That's not for us to manage anybody else's awakening process. All we can do is just show up as ourselves in our own authenticity as much as possible, and then just trust and surrender that it will work out as it needs to. And this is way bigger than you or me or any of us. You know, it's, this stuff is flowing through. Yeah, it's almost unbelievable what's happening right now. And it's funny because what you were saying, Kirsty, about what point do you go, enough, I am not taking anymore. But I think that point is individual for all of us. And what's really beautiful is that there are these senior level people who are intellects and scientists and doctors, and they've trained in virology and they understand what's going on with this virus. And some of the leading experts in the world now are going, hang on a minute, this isn't right, this doesn't make sense. And as they step forward, they provide the platform, because they're not squirreling down in YouTube rabbit holes of conspiracy, that they're literally just doing their job and saying this doesn't make sense. And then that then gives other people a platform to be able to say enough is enough. We watched V for Vendetta the other night. Oh, that film. I don't know if anyone's seen it. If you haven't, it's a really interesting watch, especially at this time.
It's very prevalent right now. So just when you do watch it, just understand that it's very easy to link.
Yes.
What the film is talking about with the current times.
It's quite old.
It's old, but I tell you what, it's bloody good.
It's good, yeah, it's good.
It's really good.
I want to say on Christina's point there, and I'm trying to keep these threads together. So we started with, after going back to Angelita the last time, is okay, there's people on a spectrum, and how do you support them? Kirsty then comes in to summarize Kirsty with, why the fuck should we? Like, at the end of the day, like, if we're all just going to be in love, do we just basically allow it to unfold whilst holding love? Or at some point, are we meant to step in? Christina brings in then that people are at different levels. And what I wanted to come on the back of what you said there, Christina, just to come back to yourself, is, does that mean then that, to keep things really simple, you have a section of society that fundamentally, at some level, believe that this is I don't want to say a good thing, that this is a necessary process for us to evolve, right? And then I'm trying to keep things simple, because sometimes when you split it down to binary, I know life isn't binary, but when we do, we kind of get clear-cut ways of looking at different paths. People that think it's a necessary part of our evolution, people who don't think that and are caught up in the story of it all. Because I think the way that you talk to these two groups of people would be very different, and you could still have someone over here who feels lost, or who is struggling to manage this kind of cross between. So is that a general good enough summary? Because to answer where Kirsty was coming from, I feel that's only a question that would be asked here. I don't feel that that's a fair representation of a person that's on this side of a fence that would ever ask that sort of question. Or if they did, it would be coming from anarchy more so than anything. Like, why should we do anything? We should revolt. So do people agree with that that's two completely polarizing but true representations of where people are at? And if so, how would you each speak to someone that sat over here, who, when you're talking about it's for our highest and greatest good, it's for our necessary evolution, it's to break down all patterns and traumas and ancestors and blah 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 woo woo, how do we have conversations over here, and how do we then support each other? Because we have our own spectrums over here, going from angels and clouds all the way to digging your feet into Pachamama. Yeah. How do we have conversations over here as well? So I'm going to stir food. I'm listening to you. Who wants to go?
I've just come up with something
Alan,
based
the
on what
voice
you
of
just
God.
said. I don't have his beard. Yeah, I just come up with something there, which is holding calm, I think, is one thing. We might not be able to reach people with our language if they're not where we're at. And I noticed that today. I said some similar things to what you guys have been saying. I said that to someone, but it drew a blank from her. She clearly wasn't ready for that. But I think a lot of what we can hold is just simply our calm. If we can look at this and accept that this is necessary for our evolution, that, and we deeply feel that everything's going to be all right, and that the darkness serves the light, and that this turmoil that we can see close up, if you take a higher celestial perspective, then it's actually harmony as seen from the celestial zone. Now, if we can have a strong sense of calm because we're experiencing it and viewing it that way, then when we are around people who are very, very worried about this, I think that's one of the greatest gifts we can give, that we are just calm and perfectly happy, and we can support them in that way. We're in a calm, loving, happy space. And whether we're interacting with people or whether we're not, we're radiating that out regardless. And I think that's one of the greatest things that we can do, because sometimes, as Kirsty says, maybe it's not our job to help people. And sometimes we can't necessarily help people in terms of language communication. And sometimes we can't help people in a practical way. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But what we can do at all times is radiate our sense of calm, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I really, really agree
I like
with
that. It
Yeah,
reminds
I
me
really
of
do.
where did the 8 C's of self-energy? That's not Don Miguel. It's
No, that's IFS, that's Dick Schwartz work.
Dick Schwartz work.
Mhm.
And
Um,
go on, you share some stuff on it.
yeah, no, I was just that's absolutely it. And it's kind of like flirting a little bit, isn't it? It's like everybody's looking. I had this in the hairdressers the other day, and I ended up putting them on to Laurie Ladd, actually, because I think sometimes by diverting onto somebody else instead of just kind of sharing I said, listen, if you want a good perspective of what's actually going on in the world right now, then check out this woman. I said, some of the stuff she talks about is a bit out there if you're not used to it. You know, she talks to the Galactic Federation of Light. It doesn't get a bit more woo-woo than that, does it really? But check it out. And she wrote it down, and it's her choice. It's her journey, whether or not she tunes into that or not. But also, I love the what if question as well. It's like, what if this is actually for our highest good? What if this is leading us to somewhere better? And just planting that seed into their consciousness. And yeah, just allowing that to blossom in its own way. And sometimes they'll bite with it, and sometimes you'll just get a blank, but both's fine. Like then, yeah, Paul says the teacher shall appear when the student is ready. It's absolutely true. And whether people are doing the work or like everybody is going through a massive shift in consciousness right now. Every single person from wherever they are in whatever level is happening. Like I don't think anybody can not be going through that change. So it's
then,
just
so does that mean then, in a way, and I'm always trying to just take what's being said and spin it a bit and regurgitate it, because that sees if what's being said is understood by all. Is that kind of like then that everyone has trauma, everyone's got baggage and energetic shit that they're carrying from wherever, their life, past lives, parents' lives, all that sort of stuff? Does that mean then that we're all facing our bag of stuff, our things that we have to go through, and in our worlds, the bag in my world, the bag I'm dealing with is big, and in someone else's world, the bag they're dealing with is big? An objective person could look and say, well, that bag's easier than that bag, but comparatively in the person's world, a bag is a bag, and if it's heavy to carry, it's heavy to carry. So we're all dealing with that. And so in that process, Let me just gather my thoughts again on that. Sorry. Where did I go with that? So we're all dealing with it, which means then to try and have someone else see how you're dealing with your bag, it isn't representative of where they're at with their bag, because we're all dealing with things in different ways. And to link to Kirsty's thing, where we're like, well, should we even be helping? Because it is a really valid point. Like, you can't, unless someone says, please, can you offer me an insight? Is it ever our job to go and help anybody? Because where Paul says the teacher shall appear when the student's ready, we're all waiting then, or we should all allow we're all waiting for the moment where we're ready. Because I want to link to something Daniel Smachtenberger said, where he said, and it's a slight contrast, and he said, if I am going through my own spiritual emergence, if I understand that I am one and part of all things, then as soon as I self-actualize, as soon as I want to grow myself and realize that my own evolution is directly linked with the evolution of all other beings, then as soon as I see that, I must also accept that all of the being self-evolution is a necessary part of my own evolution, and there is absolutely no separation between my own ability to want to self-actualize and the assistance of supporting other people in their self-actualization. And I think the key, the bit that's missing, and I'll offer this out to everyone to kind of comment on it, it's not about us helping someone with their bag. That's for them to do. But we can be of assistance to help them with their own bag. And is that a better summary of our role, or are we still overstepping the mark?
Well, I mean, this conversation is so glorious, and it's very interesting, because when I saw that, Paul, when you posted the teacher is ready, the student, or the teacher appeared when the student is ready, I thought, I don't believe that. So what you're saying is somebody better than you, higher than you, not more knowledgeable than you, is going to appear. And to me, that says that you are less than. This is what it says to me. And so to me, that has been the missing link for a long time, is that we're looking for teachers when we are our own. And I don't think we should be helping anyone, except with one caveat: they're asking. Only if they ask, because why would they want to hear? I'm not interested in sharing. I'm only interested in sharing because you guys asked a question. And so I don't want, I don't want to waste my breath, my beautiful breath, with anyone who isn't. Why would you want to do that if they're not ready to, or don't want to, or because I also think that it lessens their path if I try to fix them before they're even asking a question. So they've got their own existential world to do. And I have my own. And for me, I'd rather look within. And I'm so glad, Angelita, that you have been, not necessarily a dissenting voice to my voice, because I used to stop myself. Then I used to go, okay, well, if she thinks that, then I'll put another cement block over my light. And I'm so glad that you have made me even more passionate in this moment than I ever have in my life. And so, I will always appreciate you for that. And I really trust that, whatever we're supposed to be doing here, it's for this, if we know more within, then we just walk through. And if I want to leave the wake of joy everywhere I go, that's my thing. So I want to leave the wake of joy. Whether you pick up that, whether you know that vibrationally, great. If you don't, great. We all got our roles here, but no one is better than the other. No one has more knowledge than the other. You've got breadcrumbs in other lifetimes to pick up and go, oh, I need to know that now.
Can I ask a question, Marie, on that?
Absolutely.
Because even when you share You know, you're now responding with your breath because someone's asked a question. In that moment when you respond, how are you not the teacher? Are we not, through the best way to learn is to teach? And I think I totally got how your response to Paul's, with that, you know, it's an old saying is that, but I think that there's assumptions within words that teacher is authoritative, when really right now on this call, I am not a teacher on this call. I'm just holding some space. You're all learning, you're all teaching simultaneously. You cannot learn from yourself without also teaching. But they go hand in glove, especially in a dualistic world. I fully at the same time understand we hold all that information inside of ourselves, but through the act of expressing that information, we ourselves learn. The best way you have ever learned anything is by doing or sharing. So how in that moment are you not the teacher if we redefine the word teacher, which is why I put support?
You know, it's really fascinating because I'm so happy you asked this question, because literally it came in the moment. That's when you know something awesome is happening. Because just like Florence Scovel Shinn in the 1920s said this, her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, in the 1920s, self-published, and the other books, you know, 5 other books. Your Word is Your Wand is another one of her books. I see this as not teaching, but you're like in a virtual game where you come up to whatever the thing you're fighting against or questioning, and all they do is they have the gift. And do you want to pick up that gift or not? Not teaching you anything. It's just, here's the thing. You can take it or leave it, but it's just, we're just sharing gifts with each other. There's no teaching going on. If you put anyone up on a pedestal, then you've lost sight of your mission.
But you're making an assumption in that moment that a teacher is on a pedestal.
You know, you can call it whatever you want. I absolutely, if you want to, you know, dance with the word teacher, I just don't, I'm not going to take on that. I see it as we are sharing gifts with each other. I am no better than you. You are no better than me. I'm not seeing, you know, to me, I do see it as authoritative because that's how I've seen teachers. That's how teachers have been in my life. That's how I see mentors. And so to me, I feel that we're just gift sharers. And I just happen to have a gift in this moment. And if you want to take it or not, but I have no other agenda at all.
Okay, cool. And it was, thank you for allowing that to be unpacked, because the language it just ties us in knots sometimes. But at the same time, when even how you respond to something to someone else, in my instance, to myself, it didn't make sense because I don't hold that same view of that teacher. So just by us unpacking that, actually we've realized that we're actually on that same page with it, but we just use different language with it. So it's just good to be clear on that. Kirsty, you wanted to say something? Sorry, I think you're muted. There you go. You have to press accept.
I don't have the energy. Sorry. I think that's what's changing right now, and I think what is majorly changing, certainly from what I'm seeing, is that that education is changing, and that you know, that it is teaching. Like, the thing is, it's teaching because it's turning up with something that someone else doesn't know how to do, and then going, this is how you can do it. There are many different ways of doing it, but here is a way that you can do it, and here's the you know, the wisdom, and it's the wisdom carriers, and it's that but essentially what needs to come to that, I think, is the understanding that it's a wisdom, and the respect for wisdom, and the respect for the student, and the hierarchical system is coming down. That is what is leaving. I mean, that's what is disappearing now. The hierarchical system of, I am a teacher, you are therefore beneath me. That's not it. But also, I think the big thing is for us to start to bring forgiveness to it, because the authority issues, like, the authority can't come down if we still have issues with authority. Like it can't turn into something else if we've still got issues with even the word authority. And I've had lots of issues with the word authority, and that's been a very personal journey for me, like a really huge one. But now it's like, it's to bring the forgiveness to the word authority, and to bring the forgiveness to the word teacher, and you know, like wherever we go, I have an issue with that, and therefore I want to call it something else, is to go, I have a grievance. And wherever the grievances are, that's where the fear is still lying. So we can all stay in the place of joy. And that's what I realized this morning, actually, when I'm in my bubble and I'm in my magical space, that's all one thing. But when I step into the war zone with the arrows and everything else that was going on today and all the other stuff, in that place, I have to go, okay, where am I holding my own fear? And where am I holding my anger or my upset or my, you know, my judgment? Where am I doing that? And maybe it, you know, it has to get stronger and stronger for me to go, oh, here's another place for me to make some more forgiveness happen, which is what I realized today in my work. It was like, okay, there's loads of areas that when I'm not in joy, it's because I haven't forgiven someone or something or a word or the language, or I'm holding grievance with different things. And then that construct doesn't allow us to go to the fifth dimension. We can't. And we're all going at the same time, so we can't. So it's our individual work is to do the individual work of where am I holding grievance with anyone or anything or any idea or any government? Like, where are my grievances? Yeah, there you go. No more to say.
Oh, thank you for that. I'm going to come to Paul, and then I'm just going to change a little tact in the conversation. Paul?
I think that was actually quite an interesting point that Marie mentioned, actually, about the whole word teacher, which I've just been sat here sort of thinking about it. And I work for an adult education charity, so I work with people who are, you know, really struggling with mental health issues, addictions, you know, all sorts of issues. And I want to come to something in a second about why we should help people. But actually, that's the point that Marie said about, actually, because I've been running like a photography course there, and I wouldn't have called myself a teacher, but when I've started thinking about actually what I'm doing as part of that session, actually I'm not teaching anybody anything when I think about it. I'm sharing my passion for that, you know, my experience. Yes, there are techniques and rules and such and things that you can share, but am I really teaching it? Am I just sharing and allowing somebody to take that on and interpret that and run with that themselves? I'm not sort of turning around and saying to them, right, here's the rule of thirds for photography. You have to obey this at all times. You can't stray from that. You know, I'm just kind of sharing my knowledge and what I've learned from experience and what other people have said. And I thought that was a really interesting way of sort of looking at it, actually, because when I think back to teachers that I've had in the past, especially at like secondary school, you know, some of them fill me with absolute dread, and you just think, oh my God, they were horrible. You know, and if that's the association you have with that word, I guess, and is it the association with the word, or is it how that person has shared their experience and their knowledge? And is that what distorts the word teacher? Does that make sense?
And other words, yeah, and other words as well. I don't think the word teachers alone either.
Yeah.
We build a construct around ourselves of the known world and how we see it, and then all the things that we've had, that we put labels on those, and then they become the basis of how we build the word. But I'll back to yourself, Paul.
But yeah, going back to kind of what Kirsty said earlier about why we should help people. And I'm just reading this. It's got me thinking. I've just been reading this book, Grit. I don't know if anybody's read that before. So it's called Grit: Why Passion and Resilience Are the Secrets to Success by Angela Duckworth. I'll share it on the WhatsApp in a minute. But there's a quote in it from a lady called Kat Cole, who was president of Cinnabon bakery chain in America. Apparently very, very successful woman started off at Hooters, apparently hoping to load of Hooters bars or something. So anyway, but she says about why she helps people. And she was saying, let me find the quote. She says, "When I'm around people, my heart and soul radiate with the awareness that I am in the presence of greatness. Maybe greatness unfound or greatness underdeveloped, but the potential or existence of greatness nevertheless. You never know who will go on to do good or even great things or become the next great influencer in the world. So treat everyone like they are that person." And that just kind of just really sort of spoke to me really in terms of why I do what I do. And actually, I don't judge anybody who comes into our centre. I don't know what they've been through, what they've experienced, but I don't know what they're going to go on to become. But actually helping that person in that moment, they are there because they are meant to be there at that point. They are ready for that to happen. And actually helping that person at that time is what's meant to happen. But you don't know what they're going to then go on to become. That's why we should help people, because we don't know what they're going to go on to do. They could then become the next big voice that, leads another group like this somewhere else and expands that network. And I guess that's why, certainly in the last few days, I've started to really kind of drill into that and actually realize, look, this is why I do what I do. And this is why we need to keep doing that sort of stuff. Because if we're not helping people, even just one person, we're missing an opportunity to possibly have a massive influence further down the line. That individual could go on and do absolutely anything. Yeah, it could be negative, but it could also be a huge, huge positive as well.
Brilliant, that, Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to just bring a different, well, picking up on a question with one of the other segues earlier. I think it was Kirsty that shared it. And I've thought this, and I don't have an answer at the minute, so I'd love people's thoughts on it. And this is, Christina and I are practicing surrendering. It's a lifelong practice. And I have been forever pondering this balance between when you take action, that yangness of going, I'm here, I'm going over there, and I stop walking. And then a more yielded approach whereby I am allowing the world to unfold and seeing what comes my way. And so my question is, when Kirsty said, like, at what point, if ever, are we meant to do something about something? And it's something that keeps going around in my head because I am observing what's going on. I fully feel where what Marie's sharing. We watched Larry Lasville's, and I really believe that. But I also, because I operate within businesses and speak to people, and I see some more of the world that Angelique is part of, and I'm an action taker. I'm a doer. So sometimes I'm like, should I be doing something? Because I don't believe that we just kind of sit around and meditate, where everyone's up to Mickey out of the book, The Secret, and they're like, oh, well, I'll just think of $1 million and it'll come, which is completely misconception of the whole book anyway. I don't believe that, and because that's no action. So should I, because I can only speak for I, and should you, at some point, do something? Where does the line go between holding the love, holding the energy, and knowing that this is a necessary part of our evolution? And if I have to go through this pain right now and experience this trauma and release this burden, then that is a process I'm going to go through. But at what point should a person, if ever, take action above and beyond what is coming to them, or is even the act of me trying to take action above and beyond what is brought to me getting in the way? Is that my head? And I think that's kind of like, if I'm Kirsty, is that kind of like an expanded way of what you were saying earlier? Like, should we? I don't believe in the mask. Should I do something about it? Or the government's putting more lockdown and I disagree with it. And I know we have this, is it called the Barrington Agreement? which is being ridiculed in the media. And I find that interesting as well. So I'm just really curious in this last section, just for 10, 15 minutes, to just get people's views. When is it right, if ever, to take action?
Well, for the last 4 years, today marks the day that I left corporate America 4 years ago today. And my question has been for these last 4 years, what is it to run a feminine business? We've done the masculine way of running it. I don't know if you hear a lot about it in England, but I don't know if you heard about hustle and grind. It's kind of been the buzzwords in America for years.
Yeah.
And it's every time I think, the only hustle I want to do is on the dance floor, and grinding, I want to do something else, where else, but nothing to do with business. And so for me, hustle and grind has been really these words that just feel so horrible, like acting when you're not ready. And, what is that phrase that says, if you launch something and you're embarrassed about it, then you're in the right spot. I'm thinking, why would I want to be embarrassed about something I've launched? Like, what is this mindset? And so my question is just continually these last 4 years has been, what is it to run a feminine business? What would that feel like? And for me, when I hear the words inspired action, because boy, when I finish a day and it's full of inspired action that I've acted, get on this call. I was going back and forth. And do I want to really be on it? I really liked the last conversation we had. Okay, so that felt inspiring. So I want to be on it again to feel more inspired. I want to have the dissenting voice because I am going to move forward with this voice of mine. And how can I be in this voice, with this voice, with the other dissenting views? And dissenting is awesome. Because then I know, do I want that? Do I not want that? Heavy, light, the practicality of this. If it feels heavy, I'm dropping it. If it feels light, I'm there. That to me, that's as simple as it is. And so for me, this whole is that what really you're asking is when to act, and it's when to act is when you're inspired.
Thank you for that, Kirsty.
That's what I used to think. So I used to think the same, that to act when inspired was my job, was my my focus. And then I started my surrender, my own personal surrender journey, where it's, can I bring love to whatever comes to me? And no longer am I doing the thing of, does this feel right? Should I do it? Does this feel right? Should I do that? Now I'm just doing what is arriving in my world, and can I bring all of me in my best? Can I just do this in love? Can I bring love to what it is that's coming my way? And I'm noticing that it's hard. Like I'm finding it hard to do that, because it was easier for me to go, actually my boundaries are here and I'm not going to do that, and this part is not for me and I don't want to do that today. Now I'm going, okay, Spirit, show me where you want me to go. You want me to go and teach with the triangles on the floor and the arrows? Let's go. Let's do that, and let's see if I can bring my love. And then, each week that I'm doing that, it's getting harder and amazing. And I'm having these moments of like, whoa, that's incredible. And now what I'm having to watch in the act of surrender is that when we surrender, the ego wants to be in charge. So we surrender, and then the ego wants to go, you did so well this week. You did so well. You did so amazingly. Come on, let's celebrate how brilliant you are. Do you know what I mean? And then I have to start noticing, whoa, hold on, in the surrender, how do I stay? It's just a minefield. You'll see very soon, you two, Christina and Daniel, that when you just go, okay, we're going where we get sent, and let's go see what that is like and bring our love to it. The challenge is hard. And that's what I'm finding it's really challenging. Whereas before it was like, I'll go where my joy, I'll follow my bliss. Actually, it was following the bliss a lot of the time. and to surrender to not the bliss, but to try and bring the bliss to the surrender, it's hard. It's hard. Amazing and hard. I mean, it's hard today because it's the end of a long period of doing it for a few days, and then, but you know, at the end of yesterday, I was buzzing because I'd managed to do it. But it's hard to just go, like, I never used to understand what it meant to get out of the way of yourself, like to really get out of the way. And I'm starting to understand what that means. It's the ego is not allowed to be involved.
So then if you are getting out of the way of yourself, and if you are allowing to move forward with what is presented for the highest and greatest good in front of you every day, then that for yourself in your world with your values, that in my opinion answers the question of whether you should take additional action. Because if the current value set you're living to is, I work with what's presented to me, I've asked for that, and you've even actually just let go into it, then that answers that sort of gives an answer to that question.
It does, but within that you also have choice. I mean, so within that you have the choice of, am I going to wear the mask or am I not?
Because you do have that option. Okay, I see what you mean.
I mean, and that's where it starts getting tricky. You're like, should I be doing something? Should I be leading here or should I not?
Okay, and now I understand where the original question came from. Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Okay. Anyone else have thoughts or comments on when, if ever, you should take action? First, think.
I just think you just know. That sounds a bit vague, but each circumstance, each moment is unique and have no hard and fast rules. But when that moment comes, you just know either way and trust that knowing. So I would not stick to any one philosophy forever.
You're working more on intuition there then.
Yeah, and discernment of each situation. So it's a combination, because I don't believe in just being with the brain, and I don't believe in just being with the intuition and the spirit, because there's a reason why we're here on earth and we're working with our brain as well. I think it's balancing and knowing when to use what, but you just kind of know in each individual circumstance. And so for me, hard and fast rules and philosophy don't always work. Just be like water.
Splish around.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really enjoyed that last little bit. Does anyone have any other comments just around that before we begin to just wrap things up a little bit? All views are welcome. Ollie?
Oh, I was going to say something. Not said anything tonight, but thanks everyone. I've really enjoyed listening to everyone's contributions. It's been really, really lovely to hear everyone's thoughts and the path that the conversation's taken. I mean, I maybe it's my personality type, but I think personally, if I was to take a stance to take my mask off or to make a decision, that maybe Kirsty was aligning towards, where she's actually kind of trying to externalize the opinions or the feelings that are kind of inside. I think that always kind of brings us back to the kind of teacher position. Like, I think I'd probably want to do that, not necessarily being a teacher, but like I almost want to do that when I think that the areas that I'd find myself doing it naturally would be with my children. I kind of want to tell them about what's going on, how I feel about it, what's it about, what does it mean to me, and I'd use my own research, my own understanding of what the influencing reasons for wearing a mask might be, what it's all about. Why do people want to have a mask on? Because they want to have an answer. It's hard for people not to know what the answer is. So actually providing a mask is an answer. And people that don't want to spend the time to understand the complexity of understanding, actually, like understanding the question is hard enough, let alone kind of actually trying to look for the answer. And people don't even necessarily find themselves understanding that part. But like, I see that place where, if someone's receptive to listen, then I probably find myself wanting to put myself out there to kind of say, I don't want to wear a mask, or I, don't need to use antibacterial hand wash when it's a virus. What antibacterial hand wash is for bacteria, not for virus. It's like viruses, yes, it might have an effect on viruses, but it's really about bacteria, and we don't need to use antibacterial hand wash for viruses. It's not the same thing. There's logic there that I will explain to my children because I believe they're receptive to listen to me. But when I go to school to drop the kids off at school, I need to wash my hands with antibacterial hand wash. I need to put a face mask when I'm walking around the open air of the grounds of the school. And we live in Chester, which is a really the school's got loads of space. It's a fantastic school. The school is like literally one line of classrooms, and you pick up the child from, that's the open space, and the classrooms are like this. So there's no kind of mix of environment with parents. Yeah, we need to all wash our hands. We need to put a mask on, but I do it because I realize there's not that receptiveness for actually creating that change there. But with my children, or maybe when I'm walking out with the parents I'm talking to, I'll introduce my thoughts and I'll see what's receptive, and if it feels right, I'll take that further. If not, I'll allow it not to be. But will I ever be a leader in my thought and a global kind of change maker in the world? I don't know, but maybe I'm not meant to be. I don't know.
And you could say that whether you're meant to be a global change maker of the world or in your community has exactly the same impact. Because who are you to know, and who are any of us to know or assume that bigger is better? Because if history has told us one thing, that is not the case. So I always like to think that whether you're meant to speak in front of 1 million people, whether your role is to help your friend Bob have a baby that's going to speak to 1 million people, they're equally as valid and important lessons in this world. I really appreciate that share, Ollie. I thought it was really heartfelt as well. And I think it reiterates that everyone is in a unique space, every single person. Nobody has any right to comment on anyone's space as being better or worse or harder or easier or right or wrong or anything like that. And just like I shared earlier, the lady that stood up and shouted at the people on stage and stormed out, and that's her style, that's her thing. And we need that in the world sometimes. We need shakers, and we need soothers, and we need mothers, and we need fathers, and we need warriors, and we need protectors, and we're human beings. And for us to try to do it someone else's way is to not be authentic. And if I look back at history, whether we look at patriarchy or whatever label we want to give, all I see is non-authenticity, disauthenticity, not authenticity. I'll say that. Inauthenticity, even a bigger word. I just see it everywhere. And I think as we're moving into authenticnessness, I think that journey is for all of us to go through. And that means that we actually start to feel that these, I don't even like the word polarizing, or Marie earlier said a word I'd never heard before, it began with D. I have written it down on a piece of paper somewhere. And to feel all this and to realize that we're completely different people, but we're part of a whole, and we're not a global civilization at the minute. We're just a lot of human beings bumping around on a planet, trying to be global, and that means understanding how different we all are, and in all of these different nuances. And so meeting people where they're at, to use Ollie's example, like you're at a school, it would be, in my opinion, unnecessarily triggering for Ollie to turn up at school with a t-shirt that says the Queen's a reptile, and with a placard that says coronavirus doesn't exist, and with a spray bottle of his spit going around spraying people to prove it. That would be, I think, unnecessarily triggering. And so there is a time and a place for us to open conversations, and that doesn't make us unauthentic, non-authentic, disauthentic. It makes us compassionate human beings, and it gives us that space to go, this is my known world right now, and in my known world there are certain spaces I can step 2 steps forward and still be pushing, and there's some spaces I wouldn't do, because it's going to cause unnecessary triggering on other people. And I think that the more that we can all see that fully, because this is the biggest thing I take from all of this, you've all got such different views, but yet a golden thread that weaves through it all. And if there's one thing it teaches me, that even though earlier we kind of split into these 2 groups, in this group over here that has belief that this is for our highest and greatest good, even within that, we are multi-parted human beings of such a varying degree, and that actually warms my heart, because my God, what a boring place it would be if we were all exactly the same. So thank you. Authenticness is my favorite. Thank you for all the bits of chats as well from everyone. Thank you for everyone's shares. And I want to just check before we depart that I'm not going to say that you feel good. I'm going to make sure that you all received something from this and you found it beneficial for yourself in your space, on your journey right now. Can you put your hand up if you did? Make sure we're all okay. Okay. Brilliant. Right. I wasn't sure whether to say put your hand up if you don't, but then that would single out people. I don't know how Kirsty's doing emojis on the screen. That's interesting. No, you have to show me next time. I don't want to try and work it out, but we're seeing more of them, hearts and things like that. So look, this has been substantially easier than I thought it was going to be. I will be honest. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I didn't think it would be a really easy, flowy conversation. And I'm always surprised. You're a wonderful bunch of people, and it's really nice to have. So I like it now. Everyone knows how to do the emojis. This is great. We'll just increase for next time. The next call, we're definitely going to do a crypto finance call. We've not done one in a long time, but I'm going to bring this back up again in a week's time. I really want to encourage us all to take something away from this, which is how I began the conversation before I press record. There are whirlpools of noise out there, and people live in them thinking they're living in the world. To use what that video said, a world with a capital W, like self with a capital W, the big one, this wonderful space we're in, when really they're living in a world with a small w, this world that we create, a construct in our mind, and everything's operating in that space. And it is my real heartfelt goal for or desire or wish that FLT can impact other people. I don't care if they're in the WhatsApp group or if they come on the call, or if they just receive the video, or if you talk to them. But I would like us all to find a new level of strength to be able to hold more light in whatever world we're in and whatever people we're speaking to, because there is what I began with, that is all happening. And if we can take just a little pinch of some of the hope that Marie shared earlier, and if we can take a little pinch of some of the stuff we've discussed today, and just begin to just help and share and invite people into new worlds of conversation, because I think as soon as we can start to hear different views and voices that aren't shouting at each other, and have calmness, like Alan said earlier, I think that's a good equation to have a better result. I think. I'm not a future teller. So I invite us all to just go out and just speak to people as the best as we can, And if you want to invite them in, and then we can have more nourishing conversations and help more people. All right, guys, look, with absolute love from my heart to all of you, thank you for showing up and for being here. And we will see you all for every day in the chat and next week as well. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.